I'm Dr. Laura.
And I'm Matthew.
And this is We Changed Our Minds podcast.
And I think it's helpful before we get started, just as a friendly reminder, that the materials and contents of this podcast are presented for educational and informational purposes only. So the materials and contents are not medical, psychological, legal, or other professional advice, and they're not intended to be substituted for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So if you have any specific questions about your health or healthcare decisions, please seek the advice of a licensed healthcare professional.
Reminds me of Neil Cassidy, but driving through the South, probably Georgia someplace, with the bus Kesey in 1964 before it all started happening, and he gets pulled. It's like the middle of the night. He gets pulled over by this redneck, state. Most people would probably panic. Deep South, Neil jumps out of the car of the bus and he runs back to the car and the cop car and says, "At last, someone I can talk to."
I could see everything all of a sudden.
Oh, yes. Can you believe that we
are back
jamming another episode? It's so amazing.
Oh gosh, what are we? This is episode 4. Hey.
Already, yes. And this honestly is one of the most special topics to me.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
really excited about this episode particularly.
It's really an organic process, isn't it? Kind of the direction that each episode takes. We don't really pre-plan it, but as we get our guests and get our interviews and stuff together, these topics kind of naturally come forward that seem like they want some attention.
We've got a particularly special guest, I think, this episode as well. First off, it's as we've talked about before, and just for all of our listeners, the Grateful Dead is a kind of foundation for me and us, right?
Kind of.
It's like it just it informed me in so many ways, and I feel like I just kind of grew up with it. And
it is our tribe.
Yeah, and that great Northwest psychedelic tribe of like people and fun, and so all of that stuff just is like incredibly intertwined with who I am as a person. Right?
Likewise.
I can't even like separate it. It's just part of me.
Yeah, we really, the way I see it is we both really came of age, on Grateful Dead tour at the shows, really having kind of these rites of passages, from adolescence into adulthood in the midst of all of that. And, Mountain Girl and the Merry Pranksters and Kesey were really mythical figures when I was a teenager. I was on the other side of the country, Alabama, going to high school, and just reading about them. And to think that we have had she's been a good close friend of mine now for I think we met in 1998.
I was thinking too, the reflections of how so much has changed over time. I mean, here we are in this modern day, possibly psychedelic renaissance, right? Where we're starting to see a great, and we've talked about it before, but it can't be emphasized enough. Like, there's a tremendous amount of information, research, investment, curiosity, conversation about psychedelics. And I don't know about you, but that wasn't always the case.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, God, I can't shake it. It was so deeply ingrained in me, just how careful everybody had to be and how hush hush the whole scene was. I mean, I still hesitate to like, I don't, I still act now, but in the back of my mind, I feel a part of me being hyper vigilant when it comes to like typing in a search term that's like a psychedelic or there's that thing of like you're going to be watched.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you have like an ongoing paranoia.
Pretty much, I guess so. Like a hypervigilance
Yeah,
that never went
vigilance
away.
is probably a better word for it,
Hypervigilance,
But
yeah,
that, I mean, part of
But
like,
it's real. I mean, you had to be that way back then. You could get in some serious fucking trouble.
yeah, well, before there was like the internet, there was like, I guess, forms of communication. They are so antiquated now, but like, you know,
What, the telephone?
right, exactly. And, finding out about things and just having the opportunity to think there are other people out there that think and feel the same way you do was a very big deal for me, right?
Okay.
And especially if they were doing things that were fun and innovative and creative and all
Mm,
of that kind of good stuff. When I
mm.
was like about, I don't know, 15, 14, there's this magazine called Relics Magazine. It's amazing. It's still out. Like, if you guys have never checked it out, it's just great, right?
Oh,
They used to have this thing called Deadheads Behind Bars. And it was like this way to do pen palship with people that had gotten incarcerated or
how
locked
about
up
that? How
that were
about that?
deadheads.
I never saw that.
And
Wow.
in the back, like where they have like the list of things, and it was called Deadheads Behind Bars. And I saw this person named Rainbow Joe, and I just
Huh.
like anyone who's named
Rainbow
has to
Joe.
just be a nice person, right? And have like
Yeah.
his penitentiary and his number and all that stuff. And so I got one of those like, white envelopes and stamps and wrote out, and I wrote him a letter, and I was his
Oh.
pen pal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you hear back from him and all that?
And so it was really funny because I had this high school project where they were like, oh, you need like where you can do correspondence, or it was some kind of like project, right? And so I was like, oh, I've got a pen pal. And then I remember the people at the school had like a flip out that I was like a teenage girl writing some incarcerated man that was like
Sure.
he was selling drugs and like all this stuff, and it kind of like became like a little thing,
Oh my
but
gosh.
so that was like one of the very first experiences that I had, realizing, hey, all this fun that we're having maybe has some consequences. Just hearing the personal stories from someone about
Wow.
how easy their life could change in the drop of a hat
Yeah.
was a little surprising to me, right?
Well, what did you learn about Rainbow Joe's whole, thing?
Well, if you're out there listening, Rainbow,
Rainbow
I
Joe,
hope you're doing good,
call
man.
in, man.
Right,
Call
call
in.
in. I hope you're doing
We want to
well,
hear from
and
you.
it was one of these just stories that as you became more and more and more seasoned on tour or out in that life, you start to realize all it takes is just one getting pulled over, or just the wrong person in the room, or the wrong place at the wrong time. You didn't necessarily have to be, you could just be like a just nice,
Yeah,
innocent, easy person that's
sure.
really kind and good, and you could find yourself in a whole entire different life. So that was one of the first, I think, personal experiences I had with that.
Yeah. Did you learn about the circumstances of his charges?
Yeah, he was driving on tour and got pulled over,
Okay.
and things
Yeah.
did not go well.
Yeah, and that was a very man. It was like hot. It was like touring through some pretty hostile territory. Some of the states they played. The spring tours that would go through the South. The roadblocks. There was often, I remember, drug checkpoints. Like
Yeah.
coming out of the show, you're on the highway trying to get to the campground, and they would just have they'd have the whole diversion trip set up where it's a drug checkpoint ahead, and then they'd be waiting for you if you exited.
Yeah.
If you tried to get off the exit, they'd have it blocked, and they'd have dogs, and everyone's getting searched.
Yeah, I used
Scary
to have
stuff.
people in my van used to rely on me because they were like, "Wow, you're like a Jedi. You can like feel that coming before it happens."
Is that
And I
right?
don't know if that was necessarily true, but there was this kind of like sixth sense. Maybe I was just kind of tuned into it or something. But I did,
Wow.
at least by luck or whatever circumstance, tend to have a pretty good track record, at least enough for people to joke on me about it.
See,
So
so
there was.
you never ran into any troubles on Grateful Dead tour
Well,
proper, huh?
yes, we did. You know it's
Did
true,
you?
Matthew. We couldn't avoid any of it. I mean, how many times do you get tear gassed or have like horses like stomping things or like, there
Oh
was just
gosh.
nuttiness all around when you have that many people and that much of a police presence.
Okay.
You're bound to have crossed that a couple times, right?
Oh, well, I had some friends had some close calls, but I fortunately did not. I somehow skated around all of that. But it was, yeah, I witnessed a lot, and
There was like crazy stuff like in Charlotte. I don't know how much of this is urban legend and how much is fact. I'm sure the listeners out there can fact check this, but in Charlotte Coliseum, for example, they actually had the police station downstairs where they were just like straight had so many people they were just booking right there on the grounds. They would have like
oh
the
yeah.
whole entire thing processing.
Well, I remember at
And
Charlotte Coliseum, what I do remember seeing is they had like scopes, and they were, just surveying the crowd from a distance, and then they had heavy undercover presence. Mixed into the crowd, just trying to catch people selling doses, or setting people up, even like entrapment stuff.
oh man, yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah,
profiling that would happen.
oh, big time, and on the highways, really in a terrifying way. Trying
Yeah,
to drive two shows through states was definitely an exercise in great peril.
yeah. And so I even though times have changed a lot, that doesn't mean that there aren't still people kind of experiencing some of the consequences of that now to this day.
Yeah, there are cats who got some long sentences that I imagine are still serving time.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't just affect you, it can like affect your, family and all kinds of people.
Oh
I know
yeah, yeah.
personally in my
Devastating
family,
consequences.
yeah. And it starts off where you might, I don't know, I had a kind of awareness that there was a lot of risk and consequences, but I also had this idealism,
Huh.
and I wouldn't call it quite a naivety, but I just saw how amazing and beautiful and good and positive my personal experiences were.
Yeah.
So I had this kind of disconnect between this, idea that it was like a problem and bad and should be punished and litigious and all of this stuff versus the fact that inherently in my heart, I felt like it was a good, positive thing.
Okay. So in that way, worth taking on the risks,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
also hard to truly grok like like what it would mean, if things went south, right? I mean, getting arrested is the kind of thing where until it happens to you, it's really hard to imagine in a way that you could accurately assess the risk. I mean, that was
Yeah.
always my take on it. I mean, it's kind of this abstract concept of what that would actually be like, and then when it actually happens, it's a harsh reality.
I personally happen to know that firsthand, and
Yeah.
I've seen what a monstrosity is.
Oh my gosh.
A really close partner and friend and family member, and
Mm.
have really experienced what it looks like to have your home raided, to have guns to your kids'
Oh.
heads,
Oh
to
my gosh.
find out what it means to literally have your life changed at the drop of the hat and be
Oh.
nonviolent people, to not have any, criminal intent, to not be like, quote unquote bad guys, right? But to be
Mm.
treated like that and what that means past just the arrest. It doesn't just end there. That's only the beginning. all the
Okay.
stuff that leads up to it, right?
Oh,
I mean,
that's wow. So you've been through that. That's really powerful.
yeah, really, there are no words for it, right? It's a podcast.
Mm.
We're supposed to be articulate and be able to
Yeah.
verbalize our thoughts
Yeah.
and be,
I can imagine.
eloquent. But there really are some things that you can only try to describe, but unless an individual has actually lived through it, that is only part of the story, because not
Yeah.
only does it not just begin the minute you get arrested, right? You're going to go through an entire legal battle. You're going to have to have attorneys. You're going to have to be in a position to afford the attorneys or get a
Yeah.
public defender or defend yourself. You have to go through an entire legal process. Then there's sentencing, then there's incarceration, depending on whether it's state or federal. Um, all of those things are going to, determine possibly the rest of your life. And
Mm.
mass incarceration of, nonviolent drug offenders is really, I think, a sad state of affairs in our society, in our country. And I
For sure.
hope that some of the research and some of the larger nonprofits and huge luminaries that are really working not only to decriminalize and legalize psychedelics and working towards harm reduction and recovery. One of the reasons I'm so behind this is because I've just personally seen it firsthand. I know what it
Yeah.
looks like to look at your babies, your children, and have cops literally holding
Mm.
literal guns over their head while they're crying and screaming and ripping their parents out of their lives.
Oh
And the
my
next time
gosh.
that they see them, and the only times that we'll ever see them for their entire childhoods, is in a visitation situation,
Wow. Wow.
incarcerated. And
So harsh.
yeah, I don't think you can ever prepare for what that looks like for people.
Yeah.
And I am not trying to have a biased perspective because of any personal experiences. I think it just informs how I really understand it. And
Okay.
yeah, it might add to my compassion, and it might give me, but it gives me a big picture view, like the lens through which I can really see how the main drivers of mass incarceration kind of play into lots of levels of things. And in order to kind of struggle with addiction, struggle with drug use, struggle with all these things, these are like complicated things, because I
Yeah.
think it's this idea that all drugs are bad, all drugs are going to harm people, all drugs are going to kill people, all drugs are negative. And I think what our podcast hopefully can show is that it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah. That's right. MG, what sparked her off with this particular topic is she had recently some folks who were making an upcoming movie about LSD and the clandestine manufacturing, basically the ins and outs of underground LSD manufacturing and distribution. Look for it, folks. It's coming out, I think, this year. But came to visit her and talk to her were both heads who got wrapped up in that. They got taken down in the 90s for LSD and had served, I guess close to 20 years. One of them, he had a life sentence, and he was out because Obama pardoned him, on his way out at the end of his presidency. Otherwise, he'd still be there today.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to our special guest. We met when I was working for Paul Stamets at Fungi Perfecti in the 90s. Paul had this wonderful idea to host a millennial mushroom conference. So this was right at the cusp of 1999 into 2000. I believe it was Halloween. And we hosted a epic group of elders and luminaries and teachers and chemists and freakazoids. It was a really intimate, wonderful conference at Bush Hot Springs. Idyllic retreat center out in the woods in Oregon, built around some natural hot springs. And our guests and speakers, they flew in from all over. We had Sasha and Ann Shulgin and Andrew Weil, and it was a star-packed weekend. And among our guests that we invited in was Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters. We invited Ken. It was how I first met those guys. He did me a solid, and it really opened some doors in my life. He basically pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, Matthew," he's like, we got this conference coming up. It's very important. We got to be, a lot to do, and I got this special job for you, and I need you to really take it seriously. And he hands me Ken Kesey's phone number and says, "We're bringing in Kesey. I want you to be his assistant. Check in with him, get in touch, introduce yourself, make sure he has everything he needs this weekend and everything goes smooth. Do it, And yes, sir, right away. And I was 19 or so. Dream gig, it was just tremendous. And so what ended up happening was the Kesey and the further bus drove from Kesey's farm to the Portland airport and scooped up all of the folks coming in from all over the world, really, and country, picked everyone up, all the speakers, at the airport, and loaded everyone in the bus. And I was following behind the bus in our company rental van with everyone's luggage. That was my job. I was the luggage boy, and followed the bus. We went winding through the Oregon countryside, and it was just, it was one of my sweetest memories. So I got to know Ken, and we became friends and stayed in touch. And I eventually went on to work and volunteer for Intrepid Trips, his business that they had out of Pleasant Hill. I was introduced that weekend to who's now a dear friend of 20 plus years, and our special guest today, Carolyn Mountain Girl Garcia. She was there with her crew, with the Pranksters, George Walker, Kesey, and we just connected that weekend, and we stayed in touch, and just over the years built one of my more prized friendships. She's been just invaluable to me as a teacher. She's taught me so much about good humor and the art of conversation, real hard-earned wisdom that she picked up along the way in all her experiences, both with the Merry Pranksters in the early days, the acid tests and that whole thing that they launched, and then her time growing up in the center of the Grateful Dead from the earliest days in 710, and raising daughters with Jerry, and our guest last week was her daughter with Kesey, Sunshine, and just who she is as a mother and a gardener, and a speaker, and just a woman, a voracious reader who knows something about everything and has a world-class, sharp as a knife, wit and vocabulary. She's such a pleasure to talk to, and she was very, very generous, just wanting to get her voice on our platform. We were hanging out up in Eugene, and I just, let her know that we had this project we're working on. We changed our minds and asked her if she wanted to get her voice out to all you all, if there's anything she wanted to say right now. And this is what was on her mind. And, it's really the first time I've heard someone from the inner band circles really speak to this topic. And it really was very powerful to me, and I have a lot of respect for her. That this matters as much as it does to her. You can hear and feel her genuine passion and emotion. And I hope that these words and this episode gets a ball rolling, and that you all hear my voice. If you care about this, we can lend your ideas, lend your gifts, your resources. Let's get something going. And here at the dawn of this new wave of psychedelic therapies and accessibility, and really, let's be honest, some profits are going to be coming in. Let's first take care of the injustices of the past that are still relics before we move forward into a brighter future. It just would not be right. Leave these guys who were on the front lines in the times when it was so dangerously illegal, and who have lost their freedom and their lives, to have forwarded people's access to these medicines, and to really help us get where we are now at this time in history where the doors are opening and people don't have to risk that anymore. Let's take care of them first, because there's still a lot of guys and gals who know their names, they probably feel very forgotten, who are still in cages for doing these things that we know brings healing and brings life, affirmation, and goodness, and laughter and love to all of us. Let's take care of them first. So I bring to you the illustrious, the great Carolyn Mountain Girl Garcia. And Laura, we'll check in afterwards and keep talking. All right, here we go.
Hey, sweetie, it's so good to see you. Thanks for making this time to share your thoughts with everybody. And I know I've been really curious to catch up with you on this topic because you've really witnessed over the course of your lifetime this unprecedented arc of these ancient medicines becoming really discovered in the West, erupting or blossoming, just pervading the culture in the 1960s, becoming illegal in 1966, and it just stuffed in the bag and all the research shut down. And now here we are 55 some plus years later, 2022, standing at this proverbial new dawn.
Right at the moment when things were just about to get really interesting, coming from our sojourn in Mexico, where we had just been for 6 months, like seven. I think I'd been gone for about 7 months altogether. And before that, we hadn't been in San Francisco at all, except to put on.
Oh, is that right?
Put on shows.
Prior to
do
that,
some little shows.
And
yeah.
what year is this? This is 66.
Yeah, I think it's 66. And so we came back to San Francisco, and it was just like, oh wow, it's so great to see you. We'd been in Mexico on the run. We'd been out of the country, for
SF was in full bloom too at that point, wasn't it?
And we had to come back after 6 months though, and that was the rub. So after 6 pretty interesting as well, but isolated months down in Mexico, we came back, and we had to hightail it. We had to go as fast as we possibly could to get to the next gig, because we had a gig at the San Francisco State University, San Francisco State in San Francisco.
Acid test.
Not exactly. It was called the Whatever It Is Festival, and I actually have a little piece of the advertising for that. But it was Stuart Brands, who was a promoter in San Francisco, who was completely unique and notable, and we really loved the guy because he put on really interesting shows. They weren't the normal entertainments at all. It was magic. The whole thing was just magic. So, we had this thing to go to, and then suddenly we were in San Francisco looking for things to do.
Well, how are you feeling about the current state of psychedelics in America?
It's an amazing moment for psychedelics in America. Ta-da, dun, da, 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 da.
And the world.
Announcing psychedelics in America.
Yes.
Because this is unique. And part of me wants to step out on that tightrope, and the rest of me says, why don't you give it a few minutes and let somebody larger and weightier than you go out there and see if the thing's going to hold.
You want an opening act.
Yeah. Well, just test the legality of the tightrope in our current political situation, and see if it holds up. So,
are you hopeful?
Very. I mean, it was well done. I would say applause.
Everybody.
Thank you so much.
So many people worked for this.
We are good citizens. Those of us who would approach. Yes. Never. We would like to be accepted.
The future's looking bright in that realm.
But I feel like a lot of work has been done, and sacrifices made to our brethren, and we've sort of come out with brands, and it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
We have, this is a legal business.
Did you ever in the 60s imagine a time when they would be integrated into culture?
We talked about it all the time.
Did
we
you?
expected that it would be legal next month. In fact, that was the perennial rumor in the 60s. Of course they're going to legalize it. I mean, why wouldn't they? It was like, da-da-da. You know, nice source of revenue for the government.
Yes.
You know, makes people all peaceful and pleasant.
It does make perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. We just sit around and talk to each other and giggle a lot and don't get in trouble. So, no, the government said this is the most heinous, heinous source of criminal activity ever known to man.
Threat to civilization.
So they made pot even more illegal there for a while.
Yes.
So that made it really difficult. A lot of kids got unfortunate detention of one kind and another.
Well, if you could design it, if it was just up to you, you could in your mind create the most ideal setting or the way that psychedelics would become integrated in America. What would it look like?
Well, it'd be osmosis. You know, the osmosis is the word for soaking it up. And what I have experienced a period in America when only a very, very small handful of people had even tried psychedelics in this country. I mean, as far as I knew. So, really, the next thing was the beginning of sneaky acceptance and experimentation, and you know, people giving themselves up into the psychedelic experience and having a good experience, which was something you kind of had to learn how to do. It's like, you know, it's like it's a little bit like being on roller skates for the first time, you know, and you're not on
pushing out to sea.
You're not really on a big hill. It's pretty easy, but you got to master the skates. So,
well said.
You know, you just have to stay within yourself to try to get your balance in the psychedelic atmosphere, and then contain. You know, we're trying to connect and contain with people.
Well, especially in the early days, I just am imagining that there was really you were truly blazing a new frontier, and there wasn't much of a context into how to behave or deal with them or interact with them, right?
So how did we deal? Yeah, how did we deal with that? How different it was? Well, we made it up as a type of theater. And so we kind of got this notion of theater as being the envelope for an experience. So you get people into the theater that have a sort of an inkling of what you're up about. You know, they should experience something unique and strange. They came flocking in, as it turned out, especially when we added the band. You know, the band was just like honey. You know, they were really good. They just played their hearts out. I have to say, just very high energy events. And then we had other ones that didn't have bands also, that were done with amplified music and a lot of participatory clanging, banging, tootling, and whistling and wheaty deedling, which actually turned out really well. You know, a lot of people took music lessons as kids, so it kind of worked. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Were there any spoken ground rules?
The ground rules were unspoken, I would say. You have to, when you come in and pay your $1, you are instructed to stop here by the punch bowl or the garbage can, as it were, and here's your cup. You get your little tiny Dixie cup, not tiny, but you know, the wee ones for like kids' birthday parties.
And someone had figured out beforehand how many micrograms were in that cup.
We were, yes.
Okay.
Supposedly.
It was fairly precise.
Supposedly.
Until every cowboy in town comes and throws his
it
ramen.
didn't. We kept pretty close eye on it, mostly. But so they would take their little dip of cup and just one, and we would say just one, you know, and shoo them in, or
and
whatever
people knew
size.
what was in it.
We tried to be careful and not have them take more than about 75.
That's much more reasonable than I assumed.
Yeah. Well, for the first out, not an unreasonable decision to make. They may like it and they may not
Good for
like
a room
it.
full of people, though. That's, manageable for most, I would say.
Right, but some people have to go sit down. They don't like it. They want to go home, and you're going like, well, can you just sit over here for a while? And
Welcome to the theater.
Yeah. So yes, and there was a good deal of actormanship, I would say. So we had actor men frolicking through the crowd in gay caps and bells, basically jesters, and then handing out stuff to wear too. Finery and regalia. And people really appreciated that, so they'd dress up and the music would play or whatever would happen. And there was often an open mic in the middle of the floor, so anybody could get on there and either, say what they harangue us with whatever story they felt necessary to tell. or just start singing along with the music, It was set up to be fun.
Yeah.
And then we had to manage all of that, though.
And what did that involve?
Just make it, because, chords get unplugged by dancing feet. The film breaks. In the
the projections,
in the projections.
Tech support.
People get lost in the building. They say, "I'll be right back."
Hey, has anyone seen Bob?
Exactly. So, your job was to stick with the projectors. Stay with the liquid lights. Keep putting water in those bowls and moving them around. And so Roy and I did that. That was our job. And then Intrepid Traveler would stand up on the balcony and with a microphone and harangue the audience a little bit and do some hoorah, what I would call hoorah.
Yeah. Was there someone making sure no one wandered out of the building, like into the streets, or?
That wasn't
an
issue.
Freely, huh?
That wasn't really an issue. Yeah, people usually got inside and stayed inside.
That's where the fun
until they were
was.
ready to leave. But you couldn't stop people from leaving.
Yeah.
Or you didn't unless they were acute.
I see.
And most people weren't. We made the punch weak enough that you would have to drink like 16 ounces to have a melter.
So that
we didn't really want to handle with it. We just wanted to just get them over the edge to the area of dance and goofing off and being silly and picking up the handbells and
that's just right.
Playing music with the band and just swirling about the floor and having a time.
We go all night generally?
Yeah. It was often more of a dance than it was of a theatrical performance. We found that theatrical performances are good for short periods, but to go on was too much. People would drift away. And they really wanted to move around. When you're high, you don't want to stand still and absorb a performance for more than about 50 seconds, maybe, 40, 45 seconds. And then they're, they need to keep their legs moving. So, because they're high, right?
Sure.
You want to don't stop the flow.
Yes. Well, a central band is very good for that, right? Because they preserve a stream of a current everyone can ride on and build the energy.
You got it. It's so great for bands. The String Cheese is my recent delight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They are so great when you're just a little bit zoomed. You're just like, oh, damn, this is just great. It makes you feel really good.
Oh, yeah.
And, there just hasn't been a whole lot of music coming through here lately.
Yes.
And we've suffered for the lack. However, each of us has a lovely collection of music, and we have these wonderful services that, frankly, I forget how to use, and then suddenly I'll wake up,
So many options.
Wait, I have an option.
Vast libraries of recordings
So
at your fingertips.
But we've all dived into music as a meditative adjunct. It's our assistant. It's our friend. It's been a wonderful thing to be able to dial up music, to get it on the radio,
certainly,
to go to a concert, and have it be this really amazing event. We've been really privileged.
Oh, sure.
And we're happy about it.
That's right. That was inseparable from your whole scene since the beginning, right?
No.
No.
It used to be a lot of work.
Oh, well, yeah. It got easier as you went.
Yeah,
Everyone got better.
We used to have to do freaking jail time. You know,
Oh, yeah.
We'd have to get arrested. We'd have to get talked to by the police. It was just
Occupational hazards.
It was hazardous. Yeah, and we didn't get paid. I didn't get paid ever for any of the work I did there. When I left, I had nothing, and it was like I never thought they would pay me because we were all equal partners.
That's right.
But it only struck me in recent years, like, how would that happen? But
when do you remember it branching off into really money being a part? You know, it getting a level of success where there needed to be a certain amount coming in to pay for the production, and then it kind of got rolling from there. Or when do you recall that? Where it shifted gears into a different thing.
Name a year for this, because this is
19. What was it looking like in 1970?
Let's see, 1970. Think about that. That was. Has anybody got gas money for the truck? So it was pretty bare bones.
The band was touring.
Yeah, 1970 was the year Annabelle was born. This is the only way I can track this stuff. So, we were living in Larkspur, and it was the year it rained every single day.
Wow.
For all winter long. I mean, it was crazy. It never stopped. You know, it just rained. It rained some, or it rained a lot, but
I've never heard that.
rained.
Wow.
And so we were like huddled in the house. You know, I had baby Annabelle.
It was the Hunter living with you guys, and Jerry and him were writing American Beauty stuff, right?
That's correct.
Wow, what a rich period.
It was, but basically, Jerry somehow arranged for us to get that house. I had been house hunting at a much lower rental rate because I didn't realize there was somebody else working on this. But they came up with a really nice house for Hunter and Christy and Jerry and myself and the kids. And then we got puppies right after that. The neighbors had the most adorable puppies.
Aww.
And one of them became the town dog of Stinson Beach. And the other one, we're not sure what happened to her. But yeah, it was a nice town. We were very fortunate to be in that house. It was the perfect place for my youngest child.
Oh, yeah.
It was very safe and pleasant.
And still close to the city for work. And how was that creative energy, like having Jerry and Hunter writing those songs in the house?
It was fairly intense.
Yeah.
Hunter was very insular and
so
rarely made an appearance.
Okay.
But he would, if we were active in the house somewhere, he was shy. He was very shy. He didn't like to interact with people.
Did they work on songs together in the living room?
Yes. Oh, they did.
Oh, how lovely.
But it would, Hunter would hand Jerry, 3 or 4 sheets of paper, and Jerry would look at them and say, "Oh, wow, man, this is great."
It's kind of like, take these and see what you can do. Huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and then he would one by one work out music for them.
What an exquisite era for that.
And he did it like in minutes.
Yeah.
He had melodies for those, because he would just go upstairs and look at the words and pick one and write a little deedle to it.
Sounds like he was deedle beedling all
and
the
then
time.
And then he'd mess with that for a few performances and see what he could do with it.
Because I know the release of those albums, Working Man's Dead and American Beauty, really not only did it shift the band into a different creative era, but it brought new attention. It kind of moved them into a different stage of, I would say, demand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't pay attention to that stuff at all. I mean, I was aware of it because I heard about it, but it didn't impact the situation at all.
Gotcha.
They were always down at the bottom of the list somewhere, as far as popularity.
Yeah.
Until they weren't,
I see.
which was really nice. Just took a hell of a long
Which was
time.
much later in the 80s, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was funny, and it's okay. I mean, I know the Grateful Dead have stalwart adherents to the very end of time.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, everybody, for finally getting it. But because I just lived that music, backstage and stuff. It was like so important to me to make it. They didn't like me to come to rehearsal. Partly because I sometimes had kids with me, which was a no-no, but because of the equipment and rehearsal was not where they really wanted me to be. So I didn't go to those very much. So I didn't really get to see how they developed stuff.
You'd hear the
very
final
often.
product often at the show.
Yeah, they would come out with. They didn't rehearse in front of anybody. Really, I mean, like really.
Yeah, got it.
Just the equipment guys there to help replug, whatever wasn't working.
Yeah. What rises to the surface as far as some of the real takeaways that you gleaned from your LSD experiences throughout the years that still really stay with you and have become a part of your value system?
Well, yeah, I would say to me, it was incredibly important to stick with my buddies and not wander off, which I did a couple of times, to my peril. To my peril, because I was no longer the same person that I had been. I could pretend to be independent, but I just didn't operate in the regular world the way I used to. I changed.
Yeah.
It changes you.
It became like a group organism, really. Huh?
Sort of. So when I get out on the road or do a big hitchhiking tour or something, or have my motorcycle break down and have to walk a long way and stuff, I didn't do very well.
What was the difference?
I don't know. It was a little scary. I was more willing to get in the wrong car, frankly. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, because sometimes you're out in the middle of somewhere at night and you go to hitchhike. And it's like, yeah, that's really not cool.
That's a good example.
Really not cool.
Right.
It just doesn't end well.
Yes. Better to have your friends around you.
Yeah. And even so, just going on a journey by yourself, I don't think it's cool at all these days. That I did that by myself was everybody like, you did that by yourself? Like, well, I'm going like, well, duh.
Yeah.
Of course, because of the self-confidence of an 18-year-old.
Yes.
I was totally self-confident.
Yeah.
I could handle any situation. Can you believe that?
Well, you did.
Luckily, nobody actually got around to pulling a gun on me, But it just, yeah, I don't recommend it. But it's by cutting you loose at an unpleasant moment. That has happened. But for the most part, there's somebody out there that you can trust in a pinch.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So nothing wrong with making new friends with people that you meet that you like, that you just like, oh, I like that person.
Yeah.
You
No telling
make friends.
No telling when a real gem of a person will come along.
Yeah.
They can always walk into your life.
Yeah. So we've had an opportunity to meet some really nice people, but since COVID, we haven't met anybody except Joey Tony.
My lampshade. I know my lampshade real well.
Yep, the pictures on the wall and talking to them, it's crazy. So anyway, I've got to break out of this cocoon here.
Yes, understood.
That's all there is to do. It's a good idea to adapt to a new lifestyle. And I'm not sure what that's going to be like.
Okay, sure. What?
What are we supposed to do?
Well, I don't know, but I know we had good training in comfort with uncertainty from psychedelics. Comfort with uncertainty.
At a certain
comfort with chaos. Right?
I agree. It's like sometimes I get a little overly excited and I rush into situations without thinking about the ramifications of my presence, and I'm blah, 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 and the waves start to roll, and I'm
you got a big soul, can't hold it back, man.
So, damn it, I'm 75. I can't really slide down that hill the same way I used to.
That's all right. You did it a bunch.
It's fun to think about, that's for sure. And I'm sure I'll have really adequate opportunities to hook up with some peers who are beginning to appear on the horizon after being in eclipse for a long time.
Oh, sure.
And looking forward to meeting some folks I've never met that were working when we were.
Right on.
Yeah.
In a social kind of zeitgeist that's ripe for newness. I think on the other side of this, we're coming into a world that has been changed.
But it's a process, as
and there's
usual.
malleability there, though.
Well, I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. But looking forward, there's work to be done.
Yes.
And at the same time, an awful lot of people just have nothing and are living on a rock somewhere, and it's just like, dang it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how a lot of those situations are going to be addressed.
Yeah. So here we are in 2022, and the stage has been set for psychedelics to come into be integrated into mental health and society. And you saw the breakout, the emergence of them on the scene. And here we are 50 years down the road, and you're witnessing the beginnings of the integration of them into our society. What do you think about, and what do you notice?
First of all, we're talking about the left coast.
Oh, yeah.
I do not...
I forget sometimes.
I don't know that this is a universal declaration of psychedelic interest.
You mean it's not
from
like this everywhere?
I don't know. We don't have a network right now.
You haven't been to Iowa in a long time.
I have not been to Iowa or Pennsylvania. So, I really don't know where it's at. And we've sort of been down, we haven't been anywhere. We haven't thought about things that we should have been doing. At the beginning of the pandemic was like setting up networks of information and shit. I think a lot of people have lost touch with their friends because they aren't going to shows.
Sure. No one saw it coming we
weren't really prepared.
Yeah.
So, I've been smoking a lot of weed. CBD blocks COVID.
Yeah.
They say.
Layer it on.
Yeah. So just stay stoned all day. What more could you ask?
Yeah, why isn't there a smoke a joint
What
mandate?
fun.
Come on.
Yeah, I really, love to get something done, but so far, not so much.
But the medicalized model, do you feel okay with that? How do you feel about that? The way it's coming into therapy?
Well, I think the first delicate, very careful procedures are being developed for working with psychedelics in a clinical, or a semi-clinical controlled situation with trained staff. We're interested to find out how they got trained, but
right.
with what we would assume be quality drugs that are not street drugs.
Significant point.
With specific dosages.
Yes.
So people can be quizzed afterwards to find out how they did, or, studied as, human study animals, and, find out how their cognition went, how was their, take their heartbeat and, find out how they're doing, which is fine. It's a little weird because I've done this at Stanford. And they'd pay you $20.
You did some of the...
I did ketamine that way.
Oh, far out.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like that one. That was a knockout. That's a knockout.
You were observed and quizzed and all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, and they knew how long it lasted, and all that stuff. So they just come around and check on me when I was supposed to wake up. And I'd be like, what happened to me? Anyway, that was then.
Yes,
but
yes.
I did all of that to make money at Stanford.
So interesting.
And they never asked me how old I was.
Huh. How about that?
Yeah. Anyway, it was a source of income.
Yeah.
And so I met the two tall doctors.
They're running the program?
Not that were.
Metzner and Leary?
No. At Stanford, those guys that were running that. Okay, I'll get it in a minute. But so, they wanted to. I thought the ketamine trial was a bit crude because they knocked me on my ass.
Oh.
I was not expecting it.
Wow.
Oh God, I went out like a light.
Okay.
But yeah. So I had a bunch of experience with that before I met Kesey.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Before I met the pranksters.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked that whole summer at Stanford until I finally got fired for ingesting the ibogaine sample before I ran it in the mass spectrometer.
But that's a story for another time. When we were talking the other day about the drug war prisoners, some of them that are just being released, you said some really poignant things to me. It's good.
Yeah. Well, I recently had a download from a prisoner, and I began to understand something I had not thought about before.
Really?
All of our joy and passion in the music and in our, our basically LSD fueled culture around psychedelic music and the wonderful dance craze that we started, and it was just, it has been a lot of fun. And now I come years later to the realization that there's people in jail for making LSD available at shows who got picked up, arrested, thrown in jail, threw away the key, and sat there for years and years and years. And we didn't know about them, really.
Okay.
Maybe we saw somebody get taken away, but we never followed through. Music management can't handle that kind of stuff, I think. Yeah. They just can't. And
the band is in somewhat of an insular world. Really,
yes, and they move on to another town 2 days later, so there's no real connection there to those people who were disappeared at a concert, went to court, got convicted, and were incarcerated
for decades.
Some for decades, and we took no responsibility for this, or at least I didn't know anybody in the music business that took responsibility for it. I think people knew about it, but somehow that knowledge never coalesced into a major action to try to either change the law, which we certainly could have tried, or to somehow pay off the world and help these people get the proper attorneys that they needed. I know there was some small efforts in this way, but I think the number of arrests that were made way outmanned any amount of effort that was put into it by the bands to help people manage their legal disaster.
Well, the band was targeted by a very specific DEA multi-year operation in the 90s, Operation Dead End. Very elaborate, very well-financed, deep undercover informants that would tour and befriend for, I know guys that spend years with these narcs, and then they'd roll on them.
Yeah, and so stuff like that is so invisible to the band.
I would imagine so.
I think that we all just kind of missed it because those folks disappeared off our radar. And we had to go on to the next gig.
How would you know?
How would we know? Somebody might have clued us in a little bit better. Yeah. But what could we have done? We're skating ahead of the DEA all the time. Our own practices include things that would be of interest to the arresting officers. So, we have no control over what people are doing backstage, really, or behind the stage or on the way to the show. So the number of arrests grew without us really realizing what was going on. Yeah. And I recently met someone who had served 21 years in the Midwest for being popped at a show for selling some LSD. And my take on that is, wow, this person was making the great light go on for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This was providing the ultimate experience at a Dead show that created the most rabid fans, and was spreading the love light all over the place. And I can't find fault with that.
No. But it's a great personal cost, this cat. Tremendous personal cost.
And all the others that are there that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Has anybody tracked any of this stuff? Not to my knowledge.
Right. Like, where's the
and
list?
that's a terrible shame. That's like giving up a gigantic resource of energy, commitment, and, just entrepreneurship. So giving the people what they want. That was part of what the Grateful Dead did.
Yep.
And they would play a ripping show, and if people were just sitting on their hands out in the audience, they'd be going like, "What happened? For some reason, nobody's having a good time." Well, how come? Maybe they just weren't getting any excitement from their intake. So, this is all kind of lately I've gotten this, and I was, how could that be that I wouldn't really notice this for a long time? I know that Rock Scully, who was the Grateful Dead's manager back in the day, he took some action on this. But he's been gone a long time. He died some years ago. And really, he sometimes would go down and try to spring people after a show. He would spot some of this police action going on. And that was a real deterrent to people's enjoyment of the show, was to see somebody get busted and hauled out.
I saw some horrible busts on tour, like, play out in the parking lot, like really traumatic busts.
Yeah. Terrible takedowns.
Guys getting tackled.
Yeah, all of
terrified,
those, terrified, pushed down into the gravel, whatever. All I can say is I apologize for not getting this picture before, because we were on the bus to the next town, and so the band was playing. They couldn't see it. The audience went home, they swept the floor, and we didn't see any more sign that this had happened to good people.
To your knowledge, was the band or management ever approached by law enforcement to, be spoken to directly about this perception that the band was a traveling LSD distribution network?
We heard a lot about that.
Okay.
And they tried to blame the band for distributing LSD over and over in various Midwestern states mostly, or even Arizona was a good one. Yeah. But, so the blame game was getting played, and it kind of obliterated the reality that certain individuals were paying for everybody's fun.
It rolled over on the kids in the lot who were doing the work.
And basically, one of the great pleasures of a Grateful Dead show and some other bands was that you could buy a tab of sort of not very strong acid and have a ripping good time with the music and all, the full,
the entire experience, the whole
wholehearted experience of it all, the joy, the glory, the fun, the music, and to have people hauled out and put in a cell for some incredible number of years, because LSD was seen by many jurisdictions as just the worst possible thing, way, so bad, so much worse than heroin and so on. So these guys would get long sentences. These people had to pay with their life essence for everybody else's glorious achievement and fun. What is sitting in the stands a little high was the greatest. It was like so much better than sitting there feeling grumpy because your butt's sore, sitting on a wooden bench or something. The whole thing of being high at a show, and I'm speaking from the personal experience place, that's just glorious. Everything is great. And to have so many people that we really never reconnected with who had the opposite experience and got hauled off. Yeah. I'm embarrassed.
a whole mixture of feelings.
I'm not just, a whole mixture of feelings, but the strongest one that's risen to the top is a feeling of responsibility.
Right on.
Grateful Dead created the draw, for all of this. There was really no protection we could have given, but we sure as hell could have tried harder.
Right on.
And I think the other thing we could have done was to stay current with the local promoters about the number of people and who they were.
Oh, yeah.
That got hauled off in handcuffs.
Yeah.
And followed their cases and help them get a better attorney.
Yeah.
Help them through the thing and at least send them a freaking letter so they know that somebody cares about them.
No doubt.
And it's just, it hurts me to think about how many people that might have been.
Yeah.
And I have no idea.
We won't know the number, yeah.
We never will. It just seems to me now that I just want to voice my thanks to those people for making it better for everybody by bringing some proper into the shows.
That's right.
That made it all so much better for everybody.
It's a brave act.
It was very brave, and it was kind of in your face, but it was the product of the day. It really was. It made everybody's day better.
Community service.
Yes, it was community service, and okay, they're making a few bucks,
sure.
and some folks were selling stuff in there that God knows what it was, but.
Yeah.
We didn't take responsibility, and we got on the bus and went to the next town.
Yep.
We went to the next gig left, and nothing was thought about that last one, because you had to go to the next one, and you had to be ready for it. You had to be rested, and the band had to have all their little catering and all the, all the niceties and so on that the promoter would do.
Yeah.
And the complete lack of protection for audience members was something that didn't get dealt with very often.
Or just acknowledgement, at least, right? Like you said, acknowledgement of the position they were in now.
And
at a minimum.
We didn't think about it.
Yep.
And I know that Rock Scully thought about it.
That's cool.
And there was a few other people that thought about it, but I don't think the musicians had time, and and they were the directors of the whole thing. Mm. If the musicians didn't want to do something, it didn't happen. Okay. They were the final arbiters of where the band went and when they played and who they played for and all of those things.
Yes, and they were concerned with, completely immersed in being musicians.
They were completely immersed in whether their guitar was in tune or if the piano was properly set up. They had so many things on their minds, and their whole thing was to put on a transcendental show.
So now that we're at this stage of the early, like a new renaissance, laws are changing, and there's this. It's being created as we speak. The new paradigm of psychedelic space in society moving forward. How do you, when you look back and you consider the things you just expressed, and you look forward, what matters to you that's carried forward?
I think that what matters to me is finding a way to locate these people that are still incarcerated and help them get out.
Okay. Make that a priority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
that would be fair.
Non-violent.
That's right.
They weren't doing anything really bad. So they were just filling a need, basically.
And these drugs are now decriminalized.
A lot of
LSD
them,
now in Oregon is decriminalized.
It's we're at that point where decriminalization is moving forward in a lot of different states. Obviously, there's going to be some holdouts, but we've kind of learned a lot of lessons since then, and America's changed, and so various recreational drugs are much more readily accepted by the general public.
That's right.
Except for some people. But still, we have a legal justice system that makes money off of people, and fines are really nice, and so on and so forth. We're still stuck with the old system, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And it's hard to get people out, and we have to. it breaks my heart to think about some of the stuff that's happened in the wake of a Dead show.
Yeah.
You know, as we left town, other people had to leave their lives.
Yeah.
You know, it's all related.
Well,
But not every city is the same.
Yeah.
You know, counties have rules, cities have rules, states have different rules.
sure.
It's still a confusing landscape.
It is.
And people who travel to shows are in the same position.
That's right. You cross through multiple jurisdictions.
You cross through the jurisdictions, somebody decides they don't like the way you look and decides to pull you over and look in your pockets,
Yep.
and you're screwed. And
That thing in your pocket that was legal in California is not legal where
in
they're
Arizona,
catching you.
right?
That's right.
You better not be heading to Texas with that particular thing. So, learning the boundaries and the rules and the ramifications is a complex process. So you got to talk to other people.
But one worthy of doing the research.
There has to be communication between audience members in order to educate everybody.
Yeah.
Every jurisdiction is a little different, and some are much more vindictive than others. So I feel like we're sort of behind on all of this stuff. The rules have been changing. Some of them have just been vanishing entirely, which is nice. You know, we would like more of that.
The speed of that progress has been surprising.
And I wonder what happens at basketball games and football games and stuff, which are huge audiences in the same arenas.
Are there people dosing at basketball games? I wonder.
I believe that that's a possibility. And,
Dosing beer.
But, yeah, what about the damn beer, you know? People are getting hammered at those things and behaving badly, I might add. And then driving home. So
More acid in sports.
oh God, that's a bumper sticker
There
for
you
you to
go.
print.
I can get
That
behind
one
that.
might get you in trouble.
Like
that
pulled
one.
over.
So we do have to be cautious how blatant we can be about all this stuff. But I would really like to see the organization of rock and roll musicians pick up the pace here and allow a fund to be created
That's a good idea.
to help spring people out.
Hire a couple
from
people
this.
to be in
hire
charge of it.
and hire some good lawyers and have them like show how to. Here's a how to, you know, how to deal with this.
That's
because
right.
I think it's a major problem for people, and it's usually young people.
Yeah.
You know, it's
in
kids.
the prime of their life.
Kids just coming out of college
That's
or
right.
coming out of high school, and they're getting in this very serious position with the law, and they really need to know how to protect themselves.
Yep.
And how to get a good attorney.
Yeah.
So that's the only advice I can give.
Right on.
Is the quality of your attorney is essential in these things. Unless there's a super vindictive legal system in a particular venue, that has to be taken into account, and there should be a warning put out with the tickets. You know, or somehow get that to the audience before they come in, so that they can come in. They can come in and not worry about being popped too much.
Yeah. When the tour dates are released, you could have color codings for each state, like level of risk.
I think that's a really good idea.
Brainstorm with this guy.
But do something about it. You know,
Yeah.
we got to do something about it, and we got to do something about helping people get out, because that's no place.
No.
That's no place for them, and it's just they haven't pulled a gun on anybody.
That's right.
They haven't shot their relatives. They haven't done any. They haven't done these things. All they've done is provide a product to somebody who
consenting
wants
adults.
it. That is small and insignificant,
right.
really, in the great scheme of things.
And life affirming, you know.
Right.
Although the law doesn't see it that way. But thank goodness mandatory minimums, people worked hard and got those removed. And that has made a big difference. Because, you know, back in the 90s when a lot of these busts were going down, the judge couldn't give. You look at the circumstances of the bust.
Right.
There could be great unfairnesses, things that would normally get cases thrown out. Mm-hmm. The judge had no say. He had to look at the law, the mandatory minimum, and include the carrier weight, I will add, of the LSD.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
right?
was a big one.
That was fucked.
Yeah.
So
They-
20 years of their time was for the sugar
Yeah.
that the acid was on.
Yeah, and it's just these rules just don't meet the standards of today.
Well, and they were vindictive and uncivilized.
They were vicious, vindictive, and they were also self-serving in that their budget goes up. They get more money from the people, the number of arrests they make, and the
Yeah.
number of people they have in jail.
Yeah, it's a big
You know,
aspect.
unfairness has unfortunately haunted our criminal justice system for a long time. I recently read Angela Davis's autobiography.
Oh.
If you want to read
Oh.
a scary story
Wow.
about what can happen to you if you're an outspoken activist with the wrong color. Oh boy, you know,
Yeah.
it's a
It came down on
chiller.
her, huh?
It's a terror tale.
Wow.
And you know, she writes very well, so it's a wonderful book to read. I
Excellent.
highly recommend it to people.
Very good.
There's so much more that I feel like the rest of us could do to help the situation with the folks that are currently serving sentences on Grateful Dead based, you know, people that were arrested at shows.
25 years later.
Yeah, I think I'm having a revelation.
Yeah, that's-
and
it's really
and
beautiful.
I'm glad I am, because you know,
Yeah.
our fun, you know, our living, our money that the band brought in all those long ago years in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, basically, we're now at a different place. But you know, the amount that our lovely audience has spent on going to the shows was really a lot. You know, accumulating.
Yes.
You know, you put it all together, it's like wowie.
Oh, yeah.
And we really, I would love to see
Payback
some of our dear friends who have law degrees pull together something here that would be effective, a community effort
Right
to even things up for people.
Right on.
And you know, I don't know how effective that would be, but that's my feeling.
Yes. And I thought that was so poignant and so touchingly expressed, and I really respect you that you naturally had that sense of awareness and compassion and sense of responsibility. Because I hadn't seen that expressed yet, and it's very important.
Isn't it odd it hasn't been expressed?
It is, and that's all the reason more that I respect you saying this.
Yeah, and
It's so important.
when I popped this idea a few weeks ago, it surprised me. And I was like, oh, why the heck didn't we do this a long
It
time
stirred you
ago?
up.
This isn't right.
Yes.
This is so wrong. Come on, man. You know,
Yep.
I started taking LSD really a long time ago, and it's, you know, I haven't had a problem with it. I've always been a good girl.
That's right.
You didn't speed or beat anybody up or do it. You know, it was just for fun. It was,
Outstanding citizen, really.
and it wasn't,
Good.
you know, it wasn't meant as a political act of defiance of the law or any of that kind of stuff.
Just life enrichment.
It was
Discovery.
very good. Life enrichment, I think, is an important term. And music enrichment, because it sure makes it sound better.
Oh yeah, it does.
And you know, and then you have a just that wonderful heart opening time. And so while we're busy having our hearts open, some poor joker who brought a handful of stuff to the show and sold it is going.
Headlock in the paddy wagon.
He's in the paddy wagon. He's going away. He's going down, and he's going to what environment?
Oh, one of extreme brutality and violence.
May I talk about that environment for a second?
So what was that like, hanging with those two? Well, you had two deadheads that sparked this in you, that had done time, who are
they
now
had done
free.
so much time.
Tell us about that.
They guys, you know, went in as you know, teenagers, basically. Young people, hadn't even been to college yet. And just coming out so much later. And just, you know, they're not happy people on the inside. Sure. They've been through too much already.
Well, tremendous toll on their lives.
And it doesn't do them any good at all to spend multiple years either in a county or a state or a federal facility, or get moved around all the time, which is what they do to keep people from talking to each other, which is the move them around game.
And often forced into violence
And-
because of the environment.
And the environment is terrible. And even if it's what you would call a good facility, which it's awful. It's all awful. And it's punitive in this strange American, crush them now punitive mindset.
That's right.
And it's, golly, I just feel terrible about it.
Well, so these guys were working on so they approached you, kind of told you their story about, and they were kind of working on a.
Yeah, and so there's a film crew out roaming around the country, picking up stories about these times.
LSD in particular?
Working on stories about basically the Grateful Dead, shows, troubles, and then what they've done after that, Mm-hmm. So this is Guerrilla Convict Films.
Oh yeah.
And the filmmaker's been working on it for quite a while. It's going to be a series of really good stories.
Yeah.
But some of those stories are going to have tragic endings because that's the way our system has been. So the whole idea that you can send some teenager to jail for 20 years and have him come out rehabilitated is bunk. It's total bunk.
Well,
it's
there's no resources provided to them for the rehabilitation.
In some of the nicer joints, yes, they do.
That's
the kid
generous.
didn't get their high school diploma or something.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And but for the most part, it's just a really painful episode.
Yeah,
and it hurts me personally to think about that, and I would hope that some effort could be made to ameliorate the situation and get everybody else out.
Yeah.
I mean, even like in Oakland, everything's like wide open in Oakland, California.
Mushrooms.
Which is great.
Yes.
But what about the handful of people that are still serving time because a judge put the hammer down and said, boom, you're going in for X number of years.
Yeah, that's a cruel irony. That makes no sense in a justice
every
perspective.
once in a while, they'll let a bunch of people out. And I know they've let out some of the older makers.
Yeah. And one of the heads that was here with you, that you met with, was actually exonerated by Obama on his way out of office.
That's right.
And he had done 20, that cat had done 20 years, I believe. 20
years. And then there's many more like him. And I think that some of the smaller jurisdictions were more punitive than the big cities because the big cities had so much turnover. They needed to move people out.
That's right.
But, jumping from one facility to another, let's move these guys over there. And all of those things are, completely ruin all your relationships. And it's more punishment.
Yep.
It's more punishment. And it's just, oh God, please let's stop the punishment.
Let's do it. Yeah.
It's hurting me to think about it. And I don't have the network to know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's even looking.
Yeah.
So,
but you speaking this is a really important. It's a really important posturing.
Yeah.
In this time, these people deserve this, and this is a starting point.
And I know that the band, the Grateful Dead, has done some of this, but it's been a while since any of that work was really being pursued. As legalization has happened in a number of venues, that doesn't really change the picture for the folks that are previously caught up.
That's right.
So we do have an issue with that, and I want to hear ideas. I would like to hear some ideas about how to organize for work on that issue. I think it's a worthy issue. I think we could get foundation money to work on this issue. It's it's about people's lives, and it's about us.
Yeah, especially if money's being generated soon commercially with the sale of psychedelics.
This is a really interesting wrinkle, isn't it?
Yes, it
is. That psychedelics are suddenly becoming almost acceptable in some jurisdictions, but not all. And by golly, somebody better come out with a map that has this city in red and that city in green.
Color-coded.
So please, we need to do this work. We've got to track this and pay attention to it and keep keep our people safe.
Yep.
Because those are our people.
That's right. And they deserve that.
Yes, and I just feel strongly that there's something that can be done, but it has to be done in concert with legal eagles who can see the loopholes and can create a lever to pop these people out.
And the voice of the people who support this, and it needs to be backed by
a series.
All of us.
Well, a series.
All of us.
This is, back in the day, in Haight-Ashbury, which is where Jerry and I got together, was in the Haight-Ashbury. There was a legal organization called HALO, Haight-Ashbury Legal Organization, and they kind of specialized in this stuff. And it was two attorneys, Brian Rohan and Michael Stepanian, and they were effective at
getting heads
preventing,
out.
preventing this
hard time.
The hard time, and they were really good at getting people out pretty quickly. But that all faded after a while because everything became national. We weren't a small town band anymore.
Okay.
The bands went out and had huge, look at the size of the venues now. What, 55,000 people in a football stadium?
Yeah.
What percentage of those people are walking home at night scot-free? And how many got taken someplace else?
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't know. And my impression is these days, in the last 10 years, busts at shows are far less common. There is not the focused, special operations that there was when the Grateful Dead was actively touring.
Because I've witnessed so many of those takedowns.
Yeah.
And, from a distance.
You could be there and not see them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I had binoculars, so I really could see them. And there's nothing you can do.
Fuck.
You're up there on the stands, and you're seeing this thing go down, 100 yards away. And it's going, oh, damn, that poor guy, shoot,
Yeah.
And it was, and then we have our moment of compassion, and then we go home or get on the bus and go to the next thing. And we can't think about that anymore.
Yeah.
There's really no mechanism for us to reach back and fix it.
That's right. You start now.
I don't think it's too late.
Yeah, it's not. And it's a ripe opportunity because we're at the dawn of a new psychedelic renaissance.
Yes, and there's a lot of people in their late teens, early 20s that are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And maybe not looking over their shoulders as much as they should.
Yeah.
But
they hear this cautionary tale, really.
Yeah, and I do think that our legal friends, folks in each state, there should be or could be something to deal with this in an organized manner where we're all talking to each other, we're discussing various jurisdictions, where to go, where not to go, there might be a place that really the band shouldn't be playing because too much of the audience is at risk there.
That's a thought.
I think I've heard that come up.
Because that would bring pressure on, if you weren't endorsing a venue because of the local heat was so heavy.
Because the local heat is so bad, and that has come up.
Then the venue owners would get talking to the police, and so.
There's a lot of variety there, and there's a lot of places to mess up.
Those are great practical ideas to begin with.
But I would just love to see a national organization based on this concept that could reach out to the various states, get the information, find these people, at least to send them a letter.
Yeah,
say,
really.
Hey, man, we know about you.
Yeah, man.
And,
imagine the difference that'd make for them.
It's women too.
That's right.
There's women I know.
That's
who
right.
Have gone away and disappeared, and it's just something we need to do.
Right on. Right on.
Well, Matthew, one of the things that this episode really did kind of hit a few chords with me about is because, I personally have lived through a lot of, we've clearly established in this podcast that we were psychedelic warriors. We're curious about life. We're try to be good, loving people. We care about our communities. We care about health and art and just living our best lives ever. And sometimes that takes a wrong turn. And so, our family, just had like a cute, like little life in Humboldt County, raising little kids, just kind of living the life that, everybody around us was kind of part of that, Northern California kind of back to the land, counterculture kind of thing
Yeah.
going
Oh
on,
yeah. Big
and
time.
we were just like living it, and one of the consequences that occurred is um I think some of some where basically my partner, husband, father of my children
Mm.
got arrested, and
Mm.
for nonviolent drug offenses that were, um, just a shame because it really impacted our lives, probably to this day. Try to be mentally healthy. I'm a big advocate of helping mental health causes, and I think a lot of the things that I champion and some of the things that are dear to me and some of the reasons I have a true, deep, compassionate desire to help others, and I'm truly passionate about these topics, is because I have a lot of personal experience with them.
Yeah.
It was a federal case. They came in at, I want to get the time right, but about 5 a.m., still dark outside,
Ouch.
banging on the door, guns to everyone's head. Um, Personally, I was undressed because I was just sleeping in the bed. Held everyone. All I can see are like my children's faces. They were very little at the time, 3 and 8 years old, and just the brutal trauma of how over the top it was. We didn't have anything really in the house. It was a big conspiracy case where I wasn't involved at all. Luckily, I've never had a criminal record and never been convicted of anything, and I haven't done anything. But that doesn't mean that we can't be around people who are exposed to all kinds of challenges, and
Yeah.
um, it was. It was just insane, the amount of force and people involved in it. Like,
Oh
you
my
couldn't believe
gosh,
how
really?
many people were there. There
Really?
was like people from other states and like state agents and DEA agents, and
Oh
you would
wow.
think that we were like Pablo Escobar.
Oh,
But like, truly, it was just the amount of money and time and energy that our country puts towards that is just mind-boggling, right? And
man.
and that's just the beginning of the experience, because it really involves a whole host of things, attorneys, and all of this kind of stuff. And there's a whole legal system that you think you might know about it, but until you're in the belly of the beast, you just truly cannot imagine how bureaucratic and cumbersome and
Mm.
insane and illogical the entire system is. And it's not set up, even though, I know, like, um, my husband's parents, for example, were just great Americans. They thought, everything is set up to protect and serve, and,
Yeah.
nothing could be crooked or misunderstood or misconstrued. And it isn't until you experience this that you realize um, how further from the truth that can be in
Mm.
a lot of ways, right?
Mm.
And I think, you know, I think the real part of this I think is important to communicate is, you know, how impactful it is personally and emotionally to kind of experience that kind of trauma, especially if you're like, aware. I don't want to like, sound woo woo or new agey or be like over the top, right? Like you can have a way of talking about like counterculture and psychedelics as like this whole, can be so idealized it almost sounds goofy and a little unrealistic. But like, when you're just kind of good, happy, kind people, I don't think you realize like
Yes.
how traumatizing
Oh,
and how incredibly serious and how little you are in a big, huge system like that.
and just how fully gnarly they can turn on you, huh?
Man, it's just so damaging, not just to the people who are incarcerated. God knows they're the ones that are really experiencing it. But since that wasn't my personal experience, I don't feel like I can talk to that, but I can speak to what it's like for the people who love you and care about you that are on the other end of that, and how much that just impacts you. And I feel like it kind of defined my whole reality.
Sure, must have.
You
How
know,
could
I've
it not?
right, and so what it takes to be as fortunate and as lucky as we were. I feel like we had a lot of things that gave us privilege, like
Okay.
we could read, we could speak English to communicate with attorneys and, present well. We weren't like from another country where we didn't understand the laws well. We were like, had a home. I had enough. I could always pull together. Not to say I didn't struggle or work my
Yeah.
ass off, but I was
Yeah.
still fortunate enough to be able to. And I could always go visit. I could always put money on their books. I mean, some people are like, "Oh, you're like a single mom or something," and I really understand, and my heart is around all of those women and mothers out there who work so hard to raise their kids, and but it's so crazy when you're doing that. But plus you're also having to put money on someone's books. All of your family vacations are to a prison. Like, Merry Christmas, time to go to the prison.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a privilege and a joy that I got to do that. I
Sure.
wouldn't change it for $1 trillion, but that is such a reality change. And I'm not saying that prison doesn't have its place. I'm not saying that the justice system is this, horrible thing that we shouldn't have. I'm not against it at all. I feel like you can't have a civilized society without some parameters and people to enforce those parameters. I don't think you could live in I'm not an utter chaos anarchist, although, hey man, everybody has a perspective. I'm not going to counter argue that. I'm just going to say I understand where those people are coming from. And I even think some of the people involved in those systems want to be good people, but it's our policies and laws. Mandatory minimums played heavily into the length of time that he was incarcerated for.
Is that right? Okay.
And that was like let's see. So my kids were graduated from high school and going into adulthood when he got out. And that's like their whole entire childhoods, basically. And so that really affected us.
How long did he serve total?
I think like altogether like 10 years. I don't want to have my information like completely wrong, but like that's about right. Like 2005, because Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005. Is that right?
Yeah.
It was
I think so.
I remember it was like right in between Hurricane Katrina and then there was this like there was like these shows in Vegas or something. So it's like, I think it's like
Oh,
2005.
what, like Vegas?
Yes, how do you remember this stuff?
Oh yeah, we
Yes.
took the bus out there for
So we
50th anniversary of the acid test.
Yes, because we had big tickets to that, and that was like
Oh,
our big plans, but thwarted they were.
that's when that happened. Oh wow.
Yes, and so it's like right in
Okay.
between, because like Katrina happened, gosh, man, August or something. So it's like right in between those two
Sure.
events, and
Oh
then he got
wow.
out in like 2015. So yeah, like 10 years. There was
Oh my
also some,
gosh.
halfway house time because
Yeah.
he qualified for like the drug program and some things like that, which was spent in the Tenderloin in San Francisco.
Oh boy.
Right. So not only did they like incarcerate you, but they're like, oh, let's put you into
Right.
like some, obviously no one in Beverly Hills or
Gnarliest like
St.
hard
Helena
drug
or
like
like, yeah, or like, Carmel wants like a halfway house in their neighborhood. So of course it's going to be like the neighborhoods that are, more marginalized or underserved or, communities that
wow.
they place these in, but they're also, like literally you come out of the halfway house on your, time to go off to work or do whatever it is that you're released out for the day, and
Yeah.
you're right into Turk and Taylor Street.
Oh,
So
gnarly.
a lot of people don't make it. They get out, they get into the
Yeah.
halfway house, and drugs and
Oh,
everything are right there for them. And then it's just
oh
this
my
huge
gosh.
cycle that people get trapped into.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, gosh,
I mean,
such a big experience.
I barely am like touching on that because that
Sure, I
is,
can imagine.
it's
So
like,
many layers to that, huh?
right. And so much of a conversation, you could never distill it into like, a few minutes. And there's so
Yes.
much personal stuff in there
So
that like, how
much.
could you even, possibly share that kind of thing? But I hope the main takeaway is that, you know, uh, how we treat drug use, how we treat uh, drug users, how we treat addiction, how we treat all of these things in our society isn't just some, big conversation about, whether or not, uh, you know, we have this policy or we can make this much money off of it, or who's in charge of it politically, or how have we, how does our community do something? Are we passing a proposition? Are we doing all of these things? All those conversations are interconnected and intertwined intimately, but they do trickle down to individuals' lives. And it's
That's
not to
right.
take no responsibility for that, because everything you do in life is a choice, and all of those choices have positive consequences, and sometimes they have negative consequences.
Yeah.
Um, and they become more negative based on overarching laws and policies that kind of control what those consequences look like.
That's right. Well said.
Yeah, it
Well said.
could be
Yeah.
there.
Powerful
There's
stuff.
yeah, there's no way to even like say it any better, because it's just such, not just a United States thing. I think there's like global challenges with that, right?
Oh, for
And there,
sure. It's a global human rights issue, big time.
yeah,
And
and
I feel so, yeah, just thank you for that share. And I respect, something I feel like I told you this in different ways before, but I just respect you so much for everything you've been through and how you handled that. I mean, you really stepped it up as a mom, as a partner, and I just can only imagine how difficult it was. But I have so much respect for you, and I'm so grateful for you too, for being willing to share that something so personal with us.
well, I think I can thank our conversation and our interview, because it's something, honestly, I there's a lot of, we hold a lot of stigma. There's a lot of shame.
Yeah,
There's a lot of like, consequences that you feel like you might have out
Mm.
in greater society? Will people judge me? Will that affect my,
Yeah.
ability to like, function in society and all of these kind of things? And even
Sure.
if it doesn't personally happen to you, which again, that hasn't personally happened to me, even just being on the outside of it and
Yeah.
affected by it
Oh
has,
yeah.
created all those kind of layers that I build up. And hearing that brought forward how much we need to acknowledge things in order for them to change just hit
Yeah.
me so deeply that, man, maybe I stay too quiet. Thank you, Matthew. And I think like we're of the same type, we're of the same breed, man. We just want to see, people live their best lives ever. And so
That's
it's not
right. No
just
one
it's
get
not
hurt.
just lip service, right? Like it's
Oh
like we're
yeah.
really like truly invested in it. Like not just for our own personal selves, because that's just whatever. We can just go about our lives and kind of work on ourselves personally and do all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but just like a genuine care for other people. And that
That's right.
comes from when you really understand like how amazing uh, your potential is for your life. Like you're not defined, I think, by the things that happen to you.
That's right.
What makes you who you are is what you do with what happens to
That's
you.
how you roll with them. Yeah. And you've rolled with it like a champ, man.
Right. And I
Yeah.
and I think that our audience, I think that the people listening to us, that's like they know it and we know it for them, and we know it with them, which is just like, you can have all these kind of crazy, curious, fun, exciting, and adventurous experiences. And that's what makes you like alive. It's what,
Hmm.
drives you. And even if you're kind of navigating some of the more challenging parts of that, it's not um it's not just like necessary, like you always have the opportunity to keep your life moving forward, to build on who you are.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have those experiences, if I didn't have
Sure.
some of those challenges or watch some of those tough things happen in my life. I don't know that it would have
Sure.
built my character. I don't think I would have, you know, tried as hard to like show my kids like how lucky we are in the world
Wow.
and use our privilege and opportunity to really try to be even better people than like we're not
Wow.
perfect. We mess up. We're like human as they come, man. And
Wow.
we have so much room to grow. But I am saying like that in your life, if you do try really hard to say, okay, this is some shit that's going on around
Yeah.
me. This is some
Yeah.
stuff that's like really hard or tough. Man, it doesn't have to be your life. Like, feel like the interview that you had or the conversation that you had with MG, she's got some great ideas.
Oh man, that was big. Yeah. Well, first of all, just again, Laura, you're such a special person. I mean, for you to roll with that the way you did, without the way you've kept love and forgiveness in your heart, you could have easily had rightfully so, really been taken down by bitterness and anger. And you're just amazing. I respect you all so much, your whole family, and thank you. And yeah, and MG, boy, she really brought forward some power, man. And that was really, I think, the first time the band's inner circle really directly acknowledged this issue, and it's for her to take that head on the way she did with such honesty and such passion is just incredible, and it's
What a
fertile
heart of
ground for us.
gold.
For us, it's fertile ground. I mean, the amount of in fact, the responsibility she feels to these people, is just something that is just above and beyond, and it's fertile ground for some real good to you know be made from this, to be cultivated from this. So I let's just, hey everybody, let's take this ball and run with it. We've been given a really special pass here, you know, from the directly from the heart of the band, and let's do something good with it. Let's make her words get some stuff done, man. Let's get some people out.
I know I'm committed to helping see that vision through in any way that I can. And I'm not just,
Yeah.
saying it in just some kind of off the cuff, random way.
Oh, I
I don't
know.
know that I personally have very much of a voice or very much power, but I know that that's something that um, kind of when I had all my experience, I was like, I in my heart, like just in my heart, I was like, I cannot live with myself through my lifetime if I don't make some difference for what I've
Yeah.
seen as a huge injustice
Yeah,
towards
that's
people,
right.
right?
That's
To
right.
just and actually knowing people, like actually knowing these people like firsthand, like
Yeah.
being friends with them, talking to them, seeing them in visitation rooms, when everyone's getting out, like connecting with them,
Yeah.
getting to know them, getting to talk to them on the outside. And it's not just this one personal experience. I mean, man, we've been in the scene for a long time. So we have a
Yep.
ton of friends that we can name who have, kind of fallen victim
Yeah.
to some of the things that other people are now building in complete businesses or off of,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine people people getting wealthy before, those who've really sacrificed themselves to get us to where we are today are still behind bars.
Yeah. So,
And
I
if
mean,
anybody out there who hears this, and it strikes, it speaks to you, and you have any ideas or any resources or networks, reach out to us. You can email us either through our website or call our number 1-833 I am too high and leave us a message or some contacts, and we'll get in touch.
yeah, you can check us out on our website. There's a place to email us and leave us messages on our website as well.
Yeah.
And we'll have all the links to that with the podcast. And
Yeah, we'll be doing some things in the future. We're going to be working on some different rates, some fundraisers, and some scholarships and stuff. And this is going to be a cause that's at the forefront of our efforts. So
I'm
join
so
us.
glad you said that, Matthew, because, gosh, sometimes I think our minds are like melded and we're going to say the same thing because, actually, when we sat down and we're kind of, what does this look like? What is our vision for this thing? The
Hmm.
very first thing we did is not really write out like a business plan, but just kind of write out like, I don't like a manifestation of what this looks like. And
Yeah.
one of the very first things that both of us kind of did on our own to bring together is both of us were like, what we see is doing more than just having a podcast where we talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
things or like having a social media, whatever, that the real true purpose is an opportunity to really give back to our community in a meaningful way. And I can't think of a subject that's more close or clear to my heart. So
That's right. That's
anything we
right.
can do to make that happen is 100% I'm
Yeah, we're
down.
here. We're here to do good, man. We're here for you all. We're here for our brothers and sisters. That's what motivates me every day. So, yeah, and speaking of our brothers and sisters, we are here for you and because of you. And we want to hear from you. So we set up a number, a toll-free number you can call 24/7, and let us know what's on your mind. Leave us a question, something you've wanted to know related to drugs, addiction, health, recovery, and Laura and I, or one of our special guests, will answer next episode. And this week we've got a really special treat because MG stuck around to take on one of our questions. So in the future, give us a call and you got a shot at one of our co-hosts or ourselves taking on your question and reading it over the air. So come on down, folks. Let us know what's on your mind. 1-833 I am too high. 2 like the number. 1-833 I am too high. Yes, that number does look strange, and it is very strange, but I promise you it's real. So give it a call and let us know what is on your changed mind. Laura, let's roll it.
You ever find yourself in a precarious drug-related situation? Facing questions that you know not the answers to? You ever think to yourself, I have nowhere to turn for such answers? Strange questions like, Are these drugs illegal in this country? Or help with simple math equations? Like, now did that scale say micrograms? Or milligrams? Did that last acid trip leave you facing big questions about your place in the physical universe? Or wondering if your pet hamster really could see the color of your thoughts? Or the beloved classic, am I too high, man? Am I ever gonna come down?
1-833, I am too high.
That's right. Call now for your opportunity to have your questions read on the air by our team of completely unprofessional, not trained, and likely very stoned drug experts. 1-833, I am too high. Until then, put on some good music, relax, and breathe.
Yo, hippie, what you got in there? Fuck you, Smokey, we're clean.
You know, it seems like there's a huge acceleration of funding and research, which, I think is great. And there's a lot of novel psychedelics and interest around that. More and more companies are kind of, coming into the space. And I'm wondering if you feel like all of the research is what is driving all of this interest, or maybe there's something more to it.
That's an interesting call. So what I got from that, they've noticed there's a psychedelic renaissance happening. Mm-hmm. They've noticed the promising research. Is that what it's all about? Or what do you think? Is there more that's driving this wave?
Well, I think that a lot of people have recognized the usefulness of psychedelics in general. There's several out there. LSD being the one that we talk about the most. And it's just, I think there's a greater understanding of what's going on with them. Mm-hmm. The number of people that have taken a psychedelic and had a good experience, or a learning experience, or who knows what all kind of experiences they might have had, but they talk. Yeah. And so because the noise of the conversation has gotten pretty loud. That's now, right. And people are more open and talking.
Yes.
And there a lot of us older heads have not really held back on this topic. We have been talking about it pretty freely for a while.
And now it's more important than ever.
Because it was our duty to do so. Yeah. It's our duty to the general level of consciousness, as in this country and in other countries, to begin to understand the playground that we've been handed.
That's right.
So I think that the reason it's a little bit more used and more popular is because, frankly, in my estimate, it's a great thing.
Things have their time eventually.
Yes, I got to meet Dr. Hoffman.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
What was that about?
That was a wonderful opportunity that I had in Switzerland years ago.
Really?
And Albert Hoffman he was so cheerful, and he was like 101 or something. Wow. Or 103, I think, when I met him.
That's incredible.
And and when I asked him about making LSD, he just giggled. He was, oh yes, it's so easy to make. You just put these things together and cook it together for a moment, and boom, you've got the LSD. And he kept me very amused with some of his stories about the lab, what happened in the labs.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I think he really enjoyed it, and
throughout his life, from my understanding.
And he was a fine old gentleman and a top quality chemical scientist.
That's right.
And he stirred up the LSD, and the story got out, and other people learned how to make it.
Yeah.
And I can't name names, but they were many of them were people that I knew and respected enormously, because in those days it was so dangerous to be manufacturing.
Yeah, to even speak about it openly,
to even
like
talk
this.
about it openly.
I can't emphasize that enough for you younger folks out here. Yeah. The degree of taboo, the weight of the fear, but of the caution.
Yeah.
Was all pervading.
Yeah.
In the realm of psychedelics.
Yes.
You had to be very thoughtful and very careful about even speaking, being heard speaking about these things.
That's right.
Or you were in great danger.
You were in danger because somebody would make a phone call on your
start following
behalf
you.
and say, "This guy's over here talking about LSD."
And they'd follow you, and they'd check your phone.
And they'd come right on over and check you out.
That's
and
right.
look in your pocket and check your car and under the cushions and basically give you the once over.
It was a big deal.
And off you go. So too many have paid that price. There's too many people still paying it. And I really feel that all the rest of us need to, whoever feels this way, as I do about this, that's our responsibility in a way, for our church.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's kind of like what is it? A mitzvah is the Jewish word for this. We have a mitzvah on our hands.
Yes. It's our sacred cultural.
It's our sacred cultural duty.
That's right.
To deal with this.
That's right.
And because we are a culture.
We are, yes.
Whether we think about it that way or not, know.
Psychedelic West Coast North American culture is a rich tradition.
Now
it is.
Now it's a tradition.
It is.
That's kind of cool. You got to
it.
say it's really cool. I'm happy we have so many friends we haven't met yet.
Yes.
And I think that out there's some law students that would be interested in this project. And I feel that we could actually have an effect. It's an important thing to my heart.
Yes.
For my heart's sake, I think this is something that I would like to spend some time helping to organize. Partially because I feel it keenly. I saw too much of this, and I wiped it out of my mind. At the shows, I would say, "Oh God, there goes another one." Damn it, and then I'd go back to listen to Dark Star, and come up again.
But you care.
But I do care.
You do care.
I do care, and it's those of us who have reached to the angels need to come back down here and deal with the folks that definitely didn't make it to the good place.
That's right.
And find a way to get them out and back out on the street and
let's lend them our hand. And
into the creative part, the creative culture that we've created here. Yes. Because it is a creative culture.
It is.
Deadheads are a creative bunch. If you're not a creative person, you're not going to like the show.
That's right. That's right.
Because the shows are wildly creative.
And hey, if you're a kid, and you're questing for mysticism and meaning in your life, you don't need to look over to India or these distant lands. Mm-hmm. If you're a North American kid, there is a psychedelic scene happening right where you are.
Yes.
And it is a rich, colorful, beautiful culture that needs to be carried forward. And as we're building this new psychedelic world, I want to keep that in mind. I want to build make sure the foundation of it is on these principles that birthed this thing.
And it's our right to travel the realms angelic.
That is right.
It is our perfect right.
One of the most fundamental sovereign human rights, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so if we can get some circles going about this, I think that legal change could flow. Mm-hmm. And
the time is right.
Some folks could step out of there and get back into their lives. That would be a success in my book.
Yep.
I can't stand to see anybody else go down that way. Yeah. I can't stand it.
I know.
I can't stand it to the point where I'm going to endanger myself in this if I see any more of that activity. It's just too much.
That's right.
And I want to see all our brethren and sistren who have been stuck in the joint for a while to just walk out. Please, let's get something going here. So that's my thought for today.
Wow, that episode was out of sight. I can't wait to get back here and see you all again in 2 weeks. Next week, we've got a definite treat for you. An interview with the one, the only, Bobby Weir from the Grateful Dead. We'll tell you more about it when we're back. So stay tuned. And we love y'all. Thanks for changing your minds with us.
Awesome, Matthew.
I've been up all night unashamed of the shape I'm in. A bright dead end. There's more going on than what's going in. Unashamed of the shape I'm in. More losses than wins. Shades were good to keep the sun from coming in. Unashamed of the shade. A new day peeking